everybody, and thank you for joining us for our expert webinar, Behind the Scenes at Dumbarnie, Using Optimization, Tech and Data to Deliver a World-Class Player Experience. I have with me Blair Cross, the head golf pro at Dumbarnie Links up in beautiful Scotland. Blair, how are you today?
Yes, very well, thank you. It's a nice sunny day here, and so yeah, excited to be here and share some information.
Are you sure you're not in Florida right now?
Yeah, no, I actually walked the golf course today. We're not open for another couple of weeks for the season, and I took a walk, and I ended up just in my golf shirt. So it's I feel like I've caught the sun a bit. So it's a lovely day here.
Beautiful. I remember being at the Scottish Open and relying on the Scottish weather. I hadn't bought sunscreen, and I was punished for it. So
yeah, that was one of the good days.
For sure. All right, Blair, this is an amazing little walk that you got to do there today. Please do give us an introduction to Dumbarnie Golf Links and also yourself and how you got to be in the position that you're in now at the course.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. So starting with myself, so I'm from a town in Scotland called Elgin, up the north of Scotland, and always knew that I wanted to do something with golf. It was my favourite hobby, and when the opportunity came to get to work in the profession, I jumped at the chance. So my first job was down at the Belfry, the Ryder Cup venue down in England. And in terms of a training ground, that was perfect because it's 3 courses, golf academy, the PGA headquarters is there. So I got to experience golf retail, golf operations, golf sales, golf academy, custom fitting. So you get the idea. So a great place to learn. And I thoroughly enjoyed my 5 years at the Belfry. That's also where I did my PGA training, qualified as a PGA member. And then I came up to Scotland. So I came to St Andrews and I was at the Links Trust for about 10 years. So I did a variety of roles there. Certainly started off as a full-time instructor at the brilliant golf academy there, just alongside the old course, and then moved around into some operations roles and roles within the academy and also the junior program there as well. And then in 2020, when Dumbarnie was in the sort of stages of development and opening, I joined the team over at Dumbarnie. So I started before the golf course opened, and then it did coincide with the beginning of the terrible COVID pandemic. So that was a very interesting time to be opening a golf course. And obviously you can imagine the challenges that we all worked through. For us, it was no clubhouse, delayed opening, and then obviously no, not even any local travel, let alone any international travel. So the 2020 was a really interesting year. Don't know if we'll ever see that kind of year again. And then it's been great to see Dumbarnie grow and develop into what it's trending to be, kind of a world renowned golf course and golfer experience. So moving on to the nice picture there that we can see. Dumbarnie is a very big golf course. It's on the site, the acreage of the site, 350 acres is the site overall. So it's a big space. A lot of golf courses would be probably half that size, and a lot of maybe the really old ones, particularly maybe links courses, would maybe be even smaller than that. So 350 acres is a big space, and none of the holes really bordered each other. So again, that image below is a real sort of idea if you've not been here. From the 13th green to the 7th tee, that would take you, even in a golf cart driving in a straight line, that would probably take you about 15 minutes to get across the property. So it's a big space. So again, pulling that back to obviously today's the main subject, pace of play, monitoring golfers out there, keeping everybody communicated and whatnot, is a challenge on a site as big as that. And so that certainly is where our involvement with Tag Marshall came from, and how it's now become a key part of our experience / golf operation on course experience. And in terms of the course, obviously you can see there it's a links course, so it's firm, it's fast. We get a lot of golfers looking for links golf. Obviously, you come to Scotland and you maybe want to play links golf. So that's the style of course it is. We've got 2 or 3 holes that are like risk reward style holes where there's actually 2 fairways and you have to choose which one to go down. One of them's a bit wider, easier to hit, and a bit of an easier drive, and then some are much smaller landing area, but it gives you a much shorter and easier approach shot. And there's a couple of par 4s as well that could be described as risk reward, whereby you could maybe take on the green, but it does come with its risks. But or you can play safe as well. So again, those things all play part in our flow of golfers and pace of play. Obviously, if people are waiting for greens to clear that may not, or if people are hitting more shots than expected because they've gone down the tiger line and they maybe shouldn't have gone down the tiger line. So so all these things are a great unique sort of thing that Dumbarnie has got, which golfers are enjoying. But it does mean we need to be ready for that and to operate it accordingly. So in terms of location, if anybody doesn't know, you can see it on the map there. We're very close to St Andrews, about a 15-minute drive from St Andrews, less than an hour from Edinburgh Airport. Just in terms of the geography of it, where we are, that's us.
Thank you, Blair, for the intro. And I do think, and thank you for opening a golf course in 2020, because we needed a lot of good news that year to keep us going. And I know that a lot of people would have taken notice and says, when this is all said and done and we can travel again, that's where I'm going to go, right? So you have in a very short period of time become a household name. And congrats to you and the team for making that happen. And but we've obviously all seen that as much as 2020 was really difficult, it has been a bit of a galvanizer for golf, right? And golf has really grown, and we obviously have got a lot of American and Canadian customers that we work with, and we've really seen the demand and the take up, and I'm sure it's not different up where you guys play. One question I have for you is, what's the right way to do it for an ambitious player who wants to do both the Old Course and Dumbarnie on the same day? Which course do they play first and why?
It's people do this quite a lot. They'll try and play ourselves or any of the other great courses around us. They'll try and get, because the days are so long in Scotland as well, the temptation's there to get 2 rounds in. So it happens all the time. We're certainly very, very flexible in terms of, because we've got the very famous ballot situation as well. A lot of people will get ballot times and whatnot, and they'll play it in a certain order. We're very flexible. We would let people play morning or afternoon. I think typically Dumbarnie is a big course, to my point, 350 acres. So I would probably say if you had the choice, you'd probably maybe want to play Dumbarnie maybe first, because it's big footprint and a lot of steps. Like I took a walk today, not playing, pretty much walking straight down each hole, and I was measuring about 12,000 steps in a straight line. So if there's a few zigzag going on, there's going to be a few more steps in there. But yeah, the days are certainly long enough. But it's really important for us to, if we do have any guests who do have other places to be, the golf courses and things, it's very important that we get them around in the right time. If we've got a predicted pace of play, not being too far away from that for making tee times, transfers. And I mean, like I say, we're less than an hour from Edinburgh Airport, so we'll get a lot of people playing us before they head to the airport. And if they get a significantly slower round than they were expecting, that can, I'm not going to say they'll miss their flight, but it makes the end of their holiday a bit stressful. They're rushing to get taxis or moving them back and whatnot, and it's just maybe not a nice way to finish a trip. So people do play 2 rounds in a day, Old Course, Dumbarnie, or any of the other. Like I say, there's so many great courses around about us that it does happen quite often, and so pace of play is really important.
Yeah, but the good news is that both the Old Course and Dumbarnie have got a really good handle on the pace, so it's a good combo to play. Last question before we jump in. Looking into the crystal ball here, when Dumbarnie hosts the future Ryder Cup, which of the fairways are you gonna set up? Um,
I think, yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot. I love anyone who's played the course, or if you hop onto our website, just have a look here. There's a great drone stuff. The ninth tee is probably my favorite spot. I
hmm,
think it's a great view overlooking almost the whole course. You got a nice view of the sea. That's actually where our halfway house is. Our halfway house is on the side of the ninth tee, so it's a whole earlier than a lot of places, but it was just such a great spot, such a great view. So I think, yeah, probably hold up round about eighth green, ninth tee. I think would probably be my favorite place to watch some high level golf, I think.
nice. And yeah, get the setup to be as narrow as possible here for the home ground advantage, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that the rule? Yeah, nice, brilliant. And obviously, we do hope, and you're making such waves already that you'll be considered for higher honors at some point in the future. Um, yeah, and thanks for the fantastic intro. And I know a lot of people, that want to, and when they say we're going to go to Scotland, that you're already on the list. That's great. Um, a quick introduction to ourselves. At Tag Marshall, my name is Bodo Sieber. I'm the CEO, one of the co-founders. As you can imagine, the idea for Tag Marshall started with a very slow round of golf where multiple groups were backed up into each other on hole 13. And a couple of years later, we have a technology that really makes a difference to operators. We're very blessed to work with some of the very best clubs out there, both in the private daily fee/resort space. Yeah, this year we'll obviously be watching the Open Championship at Royal Portrush. Last year we had the US Open played at Pinehurst and the PGA Champs at Valhalla. And obviously we know these courses from a data perspective. So it was great to see them made up and looking amazing and challenging on the big screen. But what's important for us is that we get to learn from the very best operators, one, but also we get to learn from lots and lots of data. And where you have had a really wonderful career to date, and it's only the beginning, right? You have been at three quite intense facilities. We obviously have now the benefit of learnings from 600, which will soon be 700, right? So all this data flowing in is what makes our system better. And then we also have some exciting opportunities to work with the DP World Tour or with the RNA, with the amateur events and that sort of thing. And that's another arena for us to learn in. So ultimately, we get to extract the best strategies, the best data learnings, and then bring those back to everybody that we get to work with. So let's jump in. You're obviously famous already for providing a great play experience, and I know that your peers that manage courses up in Scotland also have the same ambition. We want to understand what is it that actually shapes the player experience, right? Because we have to do certain things really well, and we have to prevent other things from happening. Obviously, there's a long list of things we want to do right, but there's also research here that the USGA has done with the University of Wisconsin, and they found that there's 1,000 touch points in a player experience, and that sounds really crazy. But if you break this down by engage, so that's the touch points before a round of golf, which might include advertising, or it might include the round booking, and the check-in, and so on. Arriving, that's the physical arrival. My experience around the clubhouse, all of those items, there's lots of touch points, and including loading my clubs in the boot is a touch point, right? So if you think about it, you get to 1,000 quite quickly. Golf, and that in our little illustration here is really big and bright. Why? Because that's what drives the bus, right? There's lots of touch points, and also the majority of amount of time in this play experience journey happens on the golf course, and that really is the product, right? That is the experience that we are looking to optimize and sell. Then we have the exit, which is the post round, and that's still at the golf course, potentially at the bar, at the restaurant, extending the pro shop, what have you, and then extend means what happens afterwards, right? How do we engage with our players, making sure that they had a good time? If they had an exceptional time, maybe we get them to talk about it with a review on Google, or maybe we want to get them to share with their friends or come back for another round, right? So that's where these touch points have been defined. And interestingly enough, across perfect delighters and perfect frustrators and everything in between, where there's a delighter, a neutral, and a frustrator, the things that really make or break, and it's very polar, the player experience are very, very much pace related, right? Where we all know that fantastic conditioning is pivotal. But the thing that hurts players the most in terms of the experience is corrective pace of play actions. So that's maybe the old style way of trying to manage pace, where somebody says, "Hey, get on with it, you're slow," right? And we're trying to force that. At the same time, other people's speed, if my non-playing partners groups in front of me are holding me up, that's equally as frustrating. And on the flip side, etiquette of the marshal/play assistant, if that is perfect, if that is good, that's the highest delight factor on a golf course. There's nothing you can do that delights players more. And information provided about pace of play and having clear communication around that is also a delighter. So, Blair, you're obviously very cognizant of that, and you've mentioned it even in the introduction that this is something that you put a lot of emphasis on. Before we dig into how you use technology, how did you used to do things, especially like at a time before there was technology available? Like, just give us 2 minutes about the effort that you, and lots of manual labor effort, right, that you used to put into try and solve this problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the same. I got the teachings, if you like, or the ideas from my time at the Belfry, and 3 golf courses there. And it was a static. It was a sheet that you would design. It was a Ranger sheet, it was called. And when I started at Dumbarnie, I was just there was very few of us on the team at the beginning, and so I had to quickly get to know the course and try and come up with what was a fair and realistic, pace of play for people getting round. And so really working out how long I thought a 4 ball would take to play each of the holes, 1 to 18, and then obviously adding them all together and coming up with a rough kind of round time. And then coming up with back then, it was just coming up with a Excel spreadsheet. So you just populated it from say 7 a.m. and then just copied across it. So you knew if you were 16 minutes for the first hole, 19 minutes for the second hole, and then you would have a load of squares on a piece of paper, and you were putting in +3, -2, whether the group were ahead or behind of pace of play. Just because at the time, certainly if I go way back to the Belfry days, there was no technology at all. So, very challenging in any kind of inclement weather, particularly rain. Any kind of wind, the paper's blowing around. Yeah. It was reliant on obviously handwritten notes, whether you spoke to a group or not. And so it was very obviously on the actual day, it was very, it took a lot of time and it was far from perfect. And then afterwards, if you needed to check something from a prior week, even if you kept all the sheets in a folder, it was still, again, a very manual process. And to compare months to months was nigh on impossible and whatnot. So that was certainly how we started things, how I used to use it back in before the technology was around. And certainly when Dumbarnie opened, we were doing that process for a good couple of seasons, to be honest with you. And then obviously became aware of software like Tag Marshall. And like I say, on the day to day, it takes out the piece of paper, it takes out the challenges that brings. And then obviously historically, I now can compare month to month, day to day. I can go back and look at all the notes from the various groups that we've spoken to on the day. I can see what time of day it's quicker and whatnot. So Yeah, so a pretty archaic system to start with, but then we have embraced, the technology, and it's improved our pace of play, and as a result, as you just explained, our guest experience, immeasurably, to be honest with you.
That's fantastic feedback, and we're going to talk about the technology just now. But I've had many of our partners say, "Well, this is like the time before and after Google Maps, right?"
Yeah.
Where before Google Maps, we had a paper map. We tried to catch the traffic radio update on the hour, and if we didn't catch it, we didn't know, right? And it's just Google Maps or Waze is just so intuitive, and it's just yeah, it completely changes the way that we get from A to B and know about traffic. So just to conclude quickly, so the research also, so another study that was done is like looking at what counts for them, right? And 82% are saying course conditioning is critical. Who's in my group? Playing partner, 76%, but then 74% of players, that's number three, is pace of play. Please do that well for me as an operator. And yeah, in the USGA and the US Golf Course Owners Association's world, 84% of operators are saying this is what we need to pay top three attention to, right? The beauty of it is, and we're going to get to that later, like if you do this well, not only are you enhancing the play experience, you also have the opportunity to create additional capacity that you never had, right? Simply by controlling all the variables and then dialing into strategies to get the most out of your asset. So live and proactive pace management, we're going to look at some of the tech just now, and I'm going to ask you how you do things at Dumbarnie, who if you got dialed into the tech. But before I do that, just a quick introduction to the technology that we have available with Tag Marshal. So the system that's in play at Dumbarnie is what we call our classic mobile tags. It's literally just a little IoT GPS tracker that goes around with a foursome or gets carried by a caddy. We also have a pretty cool new addition, which is called a range tag. This is basically a rangefinder and a tracker in one, right? So because we know a lot of caddies want to carry a rangefinder, and now they have one that does the job of a tracker too. The majority of our installs obviously is in golf carts. That might either be a classic tracker that's hidden away, or it's a sort of GPS 10-inch screen that adds some golfer front end. But ultimately, it doesn't matter to us as long as we get reliable data from these units. And then that's when the Google Maps or Waze happens, right, with the live interface, but also all the variables and data in the background gets collected automatically. And that's where Blair just said, and I always say that paper is where data goes to die, right? Because it's so hard to get anything out of it, right? So that's where obviously we're looking for efficiencies and automation where possible, and really digging into the data and the underlying factors. Here's one of those tags. So here's a live map of Dumbarnie. We've got a bit of a story that we can see here. Two questions for you, Blair. Firstly, who have you got dialed in, the roles, and then what are we looking at here? Like you can obviously see what's going on at the course in a second.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I mean, this kind of view is really helpful for me. So I have it on my computer in the office, which is just off to the pro shop, so right in the heartbeat of things. And so I have it, and I because it's typically a busy day and whatnot, you aren't often sitting looking at it for periods of time. It's usually you flick it on and you see how things are looking at midday and stuff like that. So you need to see information pretty quickly and understand it pretty quickly. So who's got access? Like I say, I've got it in the pro shop. We've got two terminals in the pro shop behind the counter. So the pro shop staff have got it as well. We've got it then on two tablets, iPads, which are on the golf course if we have two players assistants out there. And then also our restaurant has it just for a read-only status, and that's really just so they can keep an eye on any big tables. So they'll find out, if the 120s a group of 16 and they're eating tonight, it's pretty handy for them to know, okay, they're teeing off on 17. We can get ready for a service for them coming in. Or if we have food at the ninth tee or anything like that. That they're maybe part of keeping it in the fridge until the last moment and then getting it out there or something like that. So yeah, pretty helpful for the F&B and the bar to know all about it as well. So we've got it on a few different devices, both kind of roaming around and static in the clubhouse. And then in terms of information, I mean, like I say, the fact it's user friendly and you get used to, I know it like the back of my hand now. So you're looking at straight away, you're looking at where the different sensors are on the golf course. As I said earlier, you can see the footprint of the course is spread out, isn't it? There's quite a lot of, we've got a few special sites of scientific interest within the sort of boundaries of the course that we really can't go in. And so there's if anyone sees any big sections there where there's no golf holes, that's because there's special wildlife and protection. So you can see the size of it. And obviously the color coding, green is good. You like to see as much green as possible. That's people who are on or ahead of time, or groups, I should say, who are on or ahead of time. And then purple's not so good because they are, delaying. And then red is they're behind time, but they're maybe not delaying anybody at the time. And orange is when you're being held up, which is a bit of a problem. So again, all of these things are really helpful to get a quick summary. I really like on the right hand side there, if you can see the green bar followed by all the red bars, that's all the holes, 18 holes. And again, back to what I said earlier, 14 minutes, or we think you can take 14 minutes to play a hole. That's whether you did it on time or under time. So again, for an experienced player's assistant, and this will be covered in training if we take on anyone new, we're quite lucky. We've got a core of players' assistants now who are getting some nice experience with the system. It's important to pay attention to that, because let's say rather than it being green and all red, let's say it was flipped around, they were all green and one red, and you don't want to be that player's assistant who jumps in and says, right guys, you need to pick up the pace, you've lost a hole in the group in front. Then they turn around and say, well, yeah, we all lost a ball in the last hole, or we were looking for this, or somebody rolled an ankle and we had to wait. Whereas if an experienced player's assistant, well, you look at that and they'll say, well, they played the first 4 holes in green and then that one was 5 minutes over. I bet something untoward happened. So you pull up to them and then you roll it into the conversation. Hi guys, how you doing? Did you have a tough time back on the 5th? And it usually leads to a bit of banter about losing a ball or something like that. So you can then get around it, and then they'll often volunteer, or we'll catch up with the group in front. We just had a bit of a mare back there. So again, a great bit of information you wouldn't have had otherwise. You can obviously see if the course is backing up behind any problem groups. A great feature that I think is one of the best features in our opinion is the notes. So you can add in notes to the tags. So if you speak to a group, I can see at the end of the day, okay, tag 33's had some interactions with our ranger and they've spoke to them after the 4th, and we've got little codes. So it's because you want to make it as easy for the player's assistant as possible. If they're out there doing a hard job, we don't want them typing away for a long time. So we've got little codes about friendly chat and more forceful chat, and all these kinds of things about little codes for having spoken to them. And so if I see a problem group, a group that's a delayer, I'll be straight hovering over that sensor and I'll be seeing what the interactions were, when they were, and often there'll be a reaction to the interaction, positive reaction, or hopefully positive reaction, but we all know that there's sometimes negative reactions as well. So yeah, so that's it kind of in a summary. It's absolutely invaluable, like I say, particularly for someone like me who might just jump in for a couple of minutes, and it gives you a sense of what's happening. One of the first things I do if I'm not here for the first tee time of the day is you come in, you go around all the areas, and then you check in with Tag Marshal and you see how the course is moving, any problem areas. And again, we've got to know the problem areas on the golf course as well. So we'll be familiar with, okay, this is what we're going to do here. We're going to do this tactic or that tactic. So yeah, it's great for the detail, but it's also great for a summary of the day in a split second, essentially.
Great. I know our American partners that do play a golf tour in Scotland. They love it that they can see what happens out on the course at a glance, even while they're on the round, right? Somewhere far
Yeah.
away. So that oversight, obviously priceless, knowing as a team on it. And there's one thing I'm noting here, Blair, is that you're not mentioning marshals or rangers
No,
in terms
we
of the
decided to.
name, right?
Yeah, we decided to try and make the as we call it, the player's assistant now, because I think marshals and rangers, there's a image there that it is somebody who is maybe a little grumpy, or isn't interested in any positive interactions, is only going to speak to you when you've done something wrong or you're behind play. Whereas we would love, or we actively encourage our players' assistants to get out the cart. We're not a buggy course. We don't really do buggies. It's a walk-in course. So our course marshals, players assistants, sorry, will park up and they will get out the cart and they will walk. And one of the things we've realized is if everything's moving well on the golf course, our players assistant will actually wait and try and chat to quite a few of the early groups on one of the early holes. And
Mhm.
it's not to ask them to speed up or that they've done anything wrong. It's purely to introduce themselves and say, "Hi, my name's so and so. I'm out here today. If I can help with your day at all, just let us know." So, whether it be, like I say, somebody's maybe had a first aid, someone's rolled an ankle, or somebody's run out of golf balls and needs them to run to the pro shop for them, or something like that. So the player's assistant, or what used to maybe be the course marshal, it doesn't have to be you only get in touch with them when something's going wrong. It can be you pull over and you help them look for their golf ball. Or if you're driving past and it's a blind tee shot, we've got a couple at Dumbarnie blind tee shots.
Mhm.
Jump on the tee, how you doing? Oh, the line here is such and such. Little bits like that. Obviously, we've got a lot of caddy play, so that's
Sure.
not always suitable. But yeah, just to extend the role for the person that's doing it, so that they also feel like I'm not just out there to bark at people and get them to move on. I'm assisting in the experience. I'm trying to make their day as good as possible. So yeah, we actively changed that a couple of seasons ago, and it's been hand in hand with a different approach. And yeah, I would say that particularly that interaction early on in the round, just to say hi, just to say hope you have a great day, because then, in my experience, if you then do need to have a difficult chat with that, let's say you speak to them. For us, it's on our third tee. It's a really nice
Mhm.
spot. It's a lovely view. It's one of the risk reward par fours, so there can be a couple of minutes wait on the tee sometimes. It's perfect. Our ranger can have a little bit of chit chat. Welcome to Dumbarnie, this, that, the other. And then if you do need to speak to them, maybe on the 12th fairway or something, they already know your name. They already know you've had some friendly chat with them. And they'll be, in my experience, a lot more open to the idea that they may be out of position than if it was just a stranger who appeared from nowhere and
Yeah.
maybe didn't deliver it in the right way. So yeah, so we've gone for players assistance, which I know is used at other venues as well, and I like that idea, and it's helped us to just kind of redefine the
Mhm.
role.
Yeah, remember, I want to take you back to that experience research, right? So positive ranger etiquette, which is exactly what you're explaining, is the top delighter for players. At the same time, we need to keep things moving. And we know that the moment you have data to support your conversation, you can have an easy conversation, right? And
Yeah,
without that, if it's a sheet of paper, the players will always find a way to push back and say, it's not us, it's guys in front of us. Where were you 10 minutes ago, right? And I'm paying good money to play here and all those things you've heard before, right? So we know that is difficult and it's uncomfortable. So
mm-hmm.
the moment you have data, hey, also delivering the message. Marshal, Ranger, like you said, is a bit confrontational, it's a bit policing. Play assistant, course ambassador, I'm here to help, right? And
Yeah,
simple delivery. And I would encourage all of you who are online now to also take that away as a consideration for your course. Change the name of the role, right? Position it differently, but also
mm-hmm.
how's the message being delivered? If you say, hey guys, you're slow, get on with it, the players implode, right? They can't cope. They're going to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
same message, packaged differently. You're a bit out of position. I noticed you're half a hole out of position. Please help me get back in position. Not a problem. That's a temporary item that the players can deal with, but
yeah,
slow, that we can't tell them they're slow, right? So
no,
yeah, you're doing exactly right thing here according to science. Let's talk a little bit about the labor and efficiency gains. I know that data obviously it's only as the data is only as good as your effort of collecting the data, right?
Mhm.
Where yeah, it's a yeah, just to be crude here, bullshit in, bullshit out, right? So if you're consistent with your data and how you collect it, and you
Mhm.
guys are so good at especially interactions, which we're going to talk about just now,
Mhm.
that's really when you can build up a really powerful resource that helps you make better decisions. So this is the T times integrations that we have with BRS or whoever that really pulls the T-sheet across. We can add additional custom fields in Tag Marshal 4.0, which we're rolling out at the moment. And then you can add additional data fields. Like, for instance, this is a group of 16, or this is ladies only, or these guys are playing off these tees, right? Or it might be a case of this player is handicapped or anything like that. You can just add it and it floats along the groups. But let's talk about the interactions tracking, because this is something that you mentioned like in the pre-tag marshal world would have meant a lot of radio chatter and hoping for the best, and maybe the person who did the morning
Mhm.
is no longer at the course even, right? And now it's 4 hours later, and we need to have an interaction with the group later on in the round. How is this helpful to you as a manager, but also to your team in terms of staying on top of what's happening?
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, a great example for us would be as recent as kind of the middle of last season, 2024, and it was just quite often our players assistant would be out there and there might be a group struggling and they might be playing on a certain set of tees,
Mhm.
and they would radio the starter and they would ask what tees did such and such group begin on, because they may, to help them, one of our tactics, if you're out of position, we may suggest, hey, move up to the tee box in front for a couple of holes, get you back
Mhm.
in position, and then you can return to the tees that you want. But that then obviously required the player's assistant to radio the starter, and those of you who'll be well familiar with the starter's role, pretty demanding. If it's a busy day, every 10 minutes, you know,
Mhm.
we want to minimize the radio chitter chatter as much as possible, because it's difficult for the starter to multitask and balance all those things. And then of course, if those two are having a conversation, it may stop others from having a conversation as well. So we started something in the previous software where the starter, once he teed everybody off, would just jump in the box, and on the computer in the notes would just put a B for blue, a W for white, and an R for red, what tees they played from. And then that means player's assistant, you can see someone out of position, you can see what tees are on, and you can check. Because sometimes you will get people who change about the tees, or maybe will recommend on first what tees to play from, and then they might, by accident or on purpose, might end up a set of tees back. And so that's a really quick way of finding out what's
Sure.
happening. So that's an example of us using it in the short term. For me, one of the biggest benefits is after the day. So
Mhm.
so so I come back in and I've maybe got some feedback from someone who, because as happy as we like to think a lot of the golfers are that visit, you're not, there's always going to be some issues. And if I maybe get a feedback, whether that be online or whether that be in person, about it, well, this is how slow it was, and we never saw a ranger all day, a player's assistant all day, and stuff like that. It's great for me, because rather than having to ask that person a couple of days later, did you speak to, did you have any trouble out there? There's no notes on the piece of paper. I can just jump on. I can obviously just pull up the day. I can find a specific tee time, and this is the track map here. You can see exactly um, where they went with the tag, but also where those red triangles are. That's where there was interactions, and all we need to do is open them up, as you can see there, 10:47, and you can see a little bit of chatter there. So that's so helpful for me, because then I can go back to the guest and I can say, listen, we've got the trackers on. I can see that you played in this time and spoke to the ranger on this occasion, and then that's information. It's all stored in such a unique way, a helpful way. So I'd have to say that, and that doesn't happen obviously by accident. Our players' assistants have to be very, um, focused and very diligent in the note taking, because they have to have the conversation all the tablets. I should have maybe said this. We've got them all on these like handles, I guess. So all the they're not left on the cart or anything. They walk around with them, and so they really need to make the note there and then for it to have effect, because then it's all time stamped. And so we're very lucky that our players' assistants have embraced the technology to start with. The technology works reliably, which it does, and then that helps us build these brilliant profiles and track maps. And again, we mentioned it earlier with the red and green bars. You can see there how they played quite a lot of the holes in green, and then even the reds there. So if this group were complaining about waiting, you can see there's one high red bar, but the rest are pretty modest. So really, there's not been a lot of waiting around. And again, it's just great information to have. So I've certainly had the classic person coming in, maybe saying it's 5.5 hours out there and I've missed my dinner reservation or something, and then quite quickly you can bring it up, and they can't really argue too much if you've got information to the contrary. So yeah, the notes is huge for us, and we put a lot of time into that, and it's part of our operating procedure for our players' assistants now. Note taking would be in the top couple of priorities for the day.
Yeah, it's one of those processes that takes a little bit of effort, right? But it's actually the benefit far outweighs the little bit of effort. And to your point, some of our operators have told us that they used to get whatever 50, 80, you do 20,000 rounds a year, 30,000 rounds a year, 50, 80, 100 really, really volatile complaints, sometimes a week later, right? The round was 5 hours. It was horrible. I want my money back, right? So what do you even do? Or some people go and plaster this on Google reviews, right? Which is bad for business. So they used to say, well, we used to operate here with our pants down, and it used to be a discussion like 10 emails deep sometimes, right? And now all they do is look back. Here's the time. Sometimes they take it on the nose. It's a simple, here's what we're going to do for you. Sorry, we didn't get it right. Here are the facts. But very often, pace of play, because it's so polar, right? Perception becomes reality, and it's just so helpful to have the data and to say, hey, you guys round actually finished in 4 hours 29 minutes, which is within 1 minute of our goal time, and I could see that you had a number of interactions. Let me know how you'd like to proceed with the conversation, and conversation ends, right? So it's helpful, and also I know that not every team member is as diligent as the other, right? So for you to have a measure, is my team doing their job well? What are the critical times of day that we need to be really proactive? What are the times of day where we can maybe step back a little bit according to data? It's obviously also helpful from a resourcing point of view. And that's where I really like your idea of the player assistance role being broader. They can add more value than just go chasing people around the course. So it's all helpful. Let me just try and move on here. The geofencing is another, that is obviously much more critical when you have lots of cart golf or buggy golf. So we're going to skip here. How does it help your understanding of the course? And what are our revenue opportunities? So what we're looking here is some of that backend data, which we house in what is called the Analytics Hub. And this is a day where you're playing to a 4:30 goal time, and you bring that day through in 4 hours, 11 minutes. And what I can see, and really well done on having these processes so jacked, every single group out there has had an interaction, right? An interaction doesn't mean an intervention. It's just your on-course assistant has been diligent enough to go chat to these guys, make them feel good, and log that. And you can see that here, this group is out of position, and your team has really been on top of them 5 times checked in, because the delaying the tail behind them was very real, but then you brought things back on pace, right? And that's where even a day like that would normally go really bad, you're actually bringing through at a super pace.
No, it's been, I mean, even we got a new halfway house at the start of last season, and so at the end of last season, it was really interesting to go and compare how much longer the round time was going from a limited halfway house, a temporary halfway house, to a real halfway house. So we were able to track that the ninth hole went up about two to 2.5 minutes longer
Mhm.
with a bigger offering at the halfway house. So I mean, even that is really interesting. That's information we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Sure.
I mean, if we can get people round better, I mean, we do have a lot of golf which is tour operator, so they won't
Mhm.
they won't be driving themselves, so they'll get dropped off, and then the default is probably that the round of golf is going to take 5 hours or something like that. So therefore, lifts and pickups and things will be probably organised off the back of that.
Yeah.
Um, if we get golfers in and they're in a good mood because they've had a good time, they've played at a nice pace, and if they have made good time, then they have more time in the clubhouse as well.
Mm.
So they've got more time to have a something to eat, or do a bit of shopping, or just to reflect on the great day that they've had. Um, Again, the kitchen and the restaurant will be very interested in where certain groups are if they're getting ready for the big dinner. So that'll be really helpful for knowing
Mhm.
how many groups are left out on the golf course, for how many staff are in here, or can we maybe let one chef go because that big group's now finished or whatnot. So yes, I mean it's helped in a lot of different ways, but it's certainly made it um, it's much more of a certainty as to who is
Sure.
where and in what time, as opposed to before. I used to look out the back of our clubhouse. You can see down to the 12th hole. And so
Mhm.
that was basically before we used Tag Marshal. I had some binoculars and I would be looking for a group on the 12th. Right, that's the last group of the day, for instance. We know that they're having a big meal and their family are coming in. So I would then say to the kitchen, right, give it an hour and a half and we'll see them back here. But whereas
Mhm.
now, obviously they can, because a lot can happen between the 12th and the end of the round. So
Sure. Sure.
so it's certainly helped us to schedule team shifts and things, particularly probably later in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, all of these check-ins, checkups, radios, binocular time is all time that you're spending, right, as a manager,
Mhm.
right? Just to gel
Absolutely.
the team. So
Quite.
now,
Yeah,
yeah,
it takes you time away from maybe what you
sure,
need to
sure.
be doing or want to be doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's it's got yes, it's helped significantly.
So down here we've got our hole by hole stats, and we're gonna talk to that just now, but we really looking to show what's the tee box, time on tee box, potentially tee box wait time, right? Time on fairway, time on green. And then we think of Tag Marshal as an incremental improvement machine, right? So because incrementally, hey, like saving 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there doesn't sound like a lot. But if it's incrementally added, it makes a big difference. Also, if you're doing 25,000 rounds a season, well, how bad is it if 500 go bad? Well, it is bad, right? Because why aren't they great? And
Hmm.
500 unhappy, 500 groups of four, that's 2,000 people that we're not serving well.
Hmm.
Can we do that better? Of course we can, right? So here's a great example where that 820 tee time, you're getting on top of them, and then you're also helping the group behind them
Hmm.
um, with good communication, saying, "Hey, the group ahead, I know they were a bit out of position, but they're now going to start to get back in position. Please stay with them, right?
Hmm.
Because that is part of the untangle of once you find the head of the snake, which obviously the system shows you instantly." That you have to do as well. You have to talk to the groups behind that have been impacted, and the sooner you do that, the less the impact. But
Hmm.
yeah, again, well done to your team for having this down so nicely. And here's what things look like. If you're looking at the overall pace stats on a day, groups that come in 30 minutes faster here in blue, on pace is green, within 10 minutes is orange, and then you've got a few bad that are up to 20 minutes out.
Hmm.
Sometimes days go bad, but this might be down to weather. Like you
Hmm.
might have a really tricky, some really tricky pin placements. But again, the moment you look back at what actually happened, you would have this information. And on the flip side, yeah, things coming through on pace. That's what it looks like. It's what we want to see. And then, yeah, over and above your daily stats, you also have your seasonal stats. And this, again, well done. You're holding yourselves to a really high standard here because you want to play to 4 hours 30 and you're bringing your entire season through in 4 hours 28, right? So I think
Hmm.
that's phenomenal given how tough of a walk the course is, right? It's you have to
Yeah.
people through there, right? And if you take your eye off the prize, because other things take priority, then this pushes out very quickly, right? So
Yeah.
well done to you and the team for being so diligent about achieving that.
Yeah, no, it's been really pleasing. Like you say, we do have tough days, but thanks to the technology, it doesn't have to ruin the day. You can action it quick, and
Yeah.
and then you can, like I say, turn it around. And yeah, to your point, you might have a purple, which is a delayer, and you saw the interactions there with the oranges behind. Those groups are being held up, but again, acknowledging the fact that, yeah, we have identified that the group in front or two in front are slow, but we're not just kind of sitting back and hoping for the best. We are making proactive actions, and you should see some improvements pretty soon. And yeah, I think quite often golfers will come off and they won't actually know how long they've been on the golf course. They'll just know if they were waiting and if they weren't waiting. So it won't even be so much that a group will come off and say, "Oh God, we've been such and such hours and minutes." It'll be the flow was really nice or the flow wasn't very nice. So you could actually have, weirdly enough, a 4:45 round that flows nicely, but then you might have a 4.5 round that feels like you're standing around because you were a two ball amongst a load of four balls or whatever. So yeah, so it's great that we managed to beat the goal time, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without the early identifiers that this system provides.
Yeah, great, and well done. So what we normally then suggest, and obviously you can never know enough about your business, right? But if there's times in the day where yeah, the pace is significantly quicker, right? And here you've got your 7 to 8 a.m. coming in at 4 hours 7 minutes, then 4 hours 15 or 16 in the 8 to 9. Sometimes there's capacity opportunities here, or very often, because yeah, we've got operators that really dial into that and look to maybe tighten intervals a little bit, or also obviously you've got endlessly long days, and in Scotland, not everyone's that blessed. If you're closer to the equator, your capacity time is restricted. But if we know that our days are going to come through at 4 hours 15 with very high degree of accuracy, then we can sell a few more full rounds even later in the day that would normally be twilight discounted, right? So, and all of this matters, and especially also operators that dial into dynamic pricing, they can really make those early rounds count for them, and that is where the overall player experience enhancement, which is something that we should always strive for, then gets underpinned by a really strong yeah, financial results as well, right? It's having found a little bit of capacity. It's obviously straight bottom line. But as you said, even having golfers come off sooner than expected, spending more time in your clubhouse, they're always going to spend more money when they come off happy, right?
Definitely.
So two more points to talk to, and my job is to keep us on pace. We've got 5 more minutes, and if there's any questions also for the audience here, if you would like to throw it in the Q&A or the chat, we're happy to try and answer as best we can. But your whole runtimes, this is something where we normally run a bit of data initially when we set up the system, and then we say, hey, you think your whole 5 should play in 17 minutes, but it's actually 2 minutes faster than you thought, or it's 4 minutes slower than you thought, right? So that's when we're dialing in, and you've obviously done a few adjustments over time, and that's when you get more and more accuracy. Yeah, how has this been for you, just to dial things in with yeah, the system backend? Has it been?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, like I say, I mentioned in the very beginning, I just had to kind of gauge how long I thought it would take to play each hole, and any changes to that were more instinct rather than data, obviously driven. And so, I would. That was kind of a work in progress, but then since we've been using Tag Marshall, we can actually drill down into it. So it's been really interesting, as you say. They're all pretty close, but we have made some tweaks over the time just to improve things here and there. And like I mentioned, our halfway house comes after the eighth green, so it's an unusual position probably from maybe the model. And so our ninth hole there, you can see, is the target's 20 minutes, but it is only a par 4, because the way we did it, we just built in an extra 5 minutes for that stop at the halfway. So basically, if you put the flag in on the eighth, I'm giving you 20 minutes to be on the 10th tee, so playing the
Sure.
ninth, and that
Gotcha.
allows time to stop for a refreshment. Yeah, these are, I mean, like I say, we were able to compare the ninth hole 2023 to 2024 to find out how long was an increase with us going to from a temporary sort of halfway house offering to a
Yeah.
fully functioning
Yeah.
one with a bigger menu, etc. And it was really easy. You run a report from 23 against 24, and it
Yeah.
was 2.5 minutes longer. And so we knew that that's how much it had increased, which
Yeah.
it just wouldn't be possible, obviously, without.
So that's great. And 2.5 minutes, I'm sure, has made a big difference to your play experience one, but also the revenue, right? Because you.
Absolutely, yeah. I think people have enjoyed it. Whether it's a cold drink or maybe a hot drink on a cold day. So that's made them happy, and yes, obviously it's an extra
Mm.
avenue for us as a business.
Um, yeah, so there was one question that has come through. So as a walking course, which technology can be considered? And obviously you have these walking tags that go with most of your caddies, but I think one
Yeah.
of the question was, how is this handed out and how do you make sure it comes back when there isn't a caddy in the group?
Yeah. So we have the tags and they come in a little pouch with a clip, and so it's up to our starter. So we custom built like a little rack where we charge them and then they go out in order. So group one gets tag one right through. We've got 36 tags, so you can obviously you can sign up to various depends on how busy you are. If you've got multiple courses, you'll need more tags, etc. But we've got 36. So the starter gives out the tag. I would say probably, yeah. A lot of our golfers take caddies, so we tell the golfers that there is a tracking device, but then it just goes in one of the caddies' bibs. But we obviously get a lot of golfers who don't take caddies, and so again, the starter explains what it is, and again, it's an easy one because everyone wants to play at a good pace. So we've never had anybody say I'm refusing to take that. It's a tiny little thing, and we just usually just get permission and click it on someone's bag. It doesn't make any noise. I know there's various versions, but our one is purely a measuring device, so there's no two-way instructions to be handed out or anything like that. And then at the end of the round, we have our position. We have a staff member just off the back of the 18th green, really. And their role is certainly not just there to collect the tag. It's very much another chance for us to interact with the golfers. So we call it our golf concierge service. And it's very much a friendly face at the end of the round. First things first, how did you enjoy your round? How was it? How did you play? How did everyone in the group enjoy it? What was your favorite hole? Are you coming inside for a meal? Do you need any help with anything? Oh, and by the way, can I just grab that tag back off your bag? So again, it's not just a someone standing there to collect the tag. It's much more about a service, and yeah, it's kind of like a tourist information point for us. It's like any question you've got, you need a taxi to the airport, no problem. You want to store your clubs inside, perfect. Or you hired clubs from us, we'll take those back. And on the very very limited time that a tag slips through, we worked with yourselves and we set up a geofence that kicks in the car park. So we get a nice notification. Oh, tag 17's in the car park. That's because that person came in early because they weren't feeling well and they've got a taxi. And so we get the notification and we can quickly get out to wherever it may be and grab it. Another good example would be if a caddy finishes and maybe takes it with them by accident. Again, we get an alert as soon as they hit the geofence, and then we can get in touch with them and bring it back in. So yeah, so it's we didn't we do need somebody out there to get the tags, but we turned it into a role that's brought way more benefits than just grabbing the tags.
No, 100%. So we have some courses that are a bit lower on resourcing, and they have a bit more of a self-service setup with a bit of signage, and normally that also does the job. Yeah, just maybe to the point here, there is a bit of learning that needs to happen, right? And some process needs to be adopted with any new system. So we do have, I'm very excited about that, a learning management system that we keep making better, and we've just rolled out a whole new iteration of it. So anyone of our course partners can now again sign up the various staff members that they want to get trained, right? And it's self-driven, video-based, quiz-based, right? And so it's not, it doesn't take a lot of effort or time, and it can happen in a very trackable way. And we see this all the time. Like if there's a bit of effort being put in the training, say 1 hour, it saves even an individual resource several hours a week, right? So it's always worth doing. And obviously, we also know that a starter needs to know different things to a manager, to a player assistant, right? So we have designed those courses accordingly, and even the different system types I explained. So that's always helpful. And then we also have people to help out. So Wijnand de Bruin is, for instance, is our customer success hero for Dumbarnie and some of the other areas in Scotland and Ireland, and he's a former club pro himself, right? So he's sat in your seat. He knows what it takes to run an operation, and it's great to have team members like that have both know the system well, but also know what it's like to
and
run.
very react. Very quick to get back to us with any issues, any technical issues. He's excellent to work with. We are very lucky to be working with Wijnand. Yeah.
Thank you, and I do think that also maybe one point to mention here is some golf courses are in rural areas, right? And there is, because we do need some level of reception, it can get a bit tricky. And very often that is known, right? Hey, this area is a bit poor on reception. So what we do often is then send out a coverage check device ahead of time just to see what's the situation. Because if there's 1 or 2 holes that are a bit poor, we can probably work around that. If the whole back 9 is 0 reception, we need to get a bit inventive. And some of our partners then put down a Wi-Fi mesh network, or sometimes they know, or they contact the local cell phone network provider. What are your thoughts in improving infrastructure around here? When is this going to happen? And very often our team gets involved, and there might even be range extenders that get installed. There's always a wait generally, but it does take a bit of effort. But the reward, we know it, because you are partner for multiple years generally. And like I said earlier, Pinehurst, Valhalla, all of those clubs, they've been with us for 7-8 years now, right? And if, God forbid, the system is off for 1 day because there's an undersea cable broken or something, they're like, oh my God, we're flying blind. We don't know what we're doing, right? So they really use it.
We had a day like that. We had a day like that last season, and it was something out of anyone's control.
Sure.
And I was busy trying to dig out the old sheets of paper and stuff, and it wasn't much fun, I'll tell you.
No.
So no, we wouldn't. I can't see us going. I can't imagine running the course without it now.
The last question before we check out, has there been any interest from organizations, tournament management wise, to use this program? Yes, the DP World Tour use our system at most of the events. Also, there's a number of US local tours that use it. The RNA have used it actually at the Ladies Open Championship last season. And they want the same thing, right? They want data. They want to know how are the players doing, one, but also where's our team, right? Where are the rules officials? And I was at Portmarnock, I think, over in Dublin, and the RNA ran a dual competition with the ladies and the men's. And the one event had tag marshal, the other one didn't. And the difference in radio chatter, where the tag marshal event, everyone knew what was happening, and the other event, they didn't. The difference in radio chatter was like night and day, right? So it really is an operational tool for the tours as well, and for them then collecting data on the players, and how's day 1 different from day 4? How the different setups impact? What does the weather impact? Right? The more they know about it, the better they can manage things, and also have a bit more teeth when it comes to pace infringement management, right? Which is in the professional tour space just as difficult as it is with a discerning guest that you might have, right? So they also use it. Blair, thank you so much. And all the best for the season ahead. Look forward to hearing more good things from Dumbarnie. And I know that you and the team are going to dial in even more now this year. You're another season smarter.
Yes, and I'm excited about the new software. Been seeing that, been working through my training, and lots of nice features. That's just going to help us improve it even a bit more. So thank you very much. It's been good.
Fantastic, and thanks for your time today and for the positive feedback. And it's been delightful to chat to you. All the best, and thank you everyone for joining our webinar with Blair Cross and Dumbarnie. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. We're available to assist. All the best, and we'll chat to you soon.